All right, so we're here in Oceanside, California, and I realized I have been doing triathlon now for like 15 years, and I've been a pro for over a decade, and I've come to a lot of races many times. And so we thought it would be fun to start doing sort of a race and course tips and tricks and preview type video for all of the races that I've been to. Sometimes a few times, other times many times. And so our first one will be Oceanside. Oceanside's usually the North American season opener. It's a great race. I've had fantastic experiences. I really felt in 2015, my first time here, it's really where I started to believe that I had what it takes to be a top tier pro. And so we're gonna go through the course, go through some of my experiences, go through what I think you need to be thinking about for preparation and on race day. And this will begin our race course series. We are at the start line. Well, it's out there. The start line of the Oceanside 70.3 race. It has also been over there in the on the beach, but this year, 2025, they have moved it back to the harbor, and I believe they're keeping it in the harbor just because they don't really want to some years it be out there and some years it be here. So I still think it's really good practice. Out there right now is pretty big surf. I still think it's great practice to get out there before the race, go through the surf, just play in the waves a little bit, feel the water temperature so that you're desensitized to all that, so that race morning when you come in here in this beautiful flat water here, you feel great, you feel relaxed, you feel confident, and I think that will only pay dividends for you. Right now it's quite pleasant. It's actually, I would say, quite unseasonably warm today. I've done this race before where it's been like actually very cold and took me like the first hour on the bike to warm up. So unfortunately you have to be prepared for both. So one thing I would definitely do, having done a few races like that where I've been really cold, because I do so much indoor training, I would definitely recommend getting out and riding your bike early in the morning in just your normal clothes as you would without like a bunch of warm stuff on, if you don't intend to wear warm stuff during the race, just so that you feel what it feels like. Learn to push power in those conditions, because I've definitely struggled a few times, both here and Indian Wells, interestingly, both California races, just because it feels so cold in the mornings, especially coming out of very cold water. On the other hand, this is probably as good as it gets for the weak swimmer. This is a wetsuit legal for sure, saltwater protected for the most part swim. So if you were gonna be confident in your swim, this would be the race to really be confident for. So definitely want to make sure that you've put your wetsuit on a few times, practiced a bit, practice the takeout in the wetsuit, just because you might, if you go hard, you might feel a bit claustrophobic in there and you just want to be desensitized to that. The swim, for the most part, pretty straightforward. You're just going straight down this channel, making a little left turn going out. It gets a little bit choppy when you get out to the mouth of the harbor. For the most part though, it's not too bad. One thing definitely to be cognizant of is your goggle tint. One year it was overcast and I had very heavily tinted goggles.
Yeah, you couldn't find any, eh?
I looked. I'm totally I can't see anything. And I couldn't truly see anything. And I remember my mom was gonna go off after me, and I go running up to her saying, "What color goggles you got?" And I was gonna take her goggles and give her my goggles so that she couldn't see. So you definitely wanna have, actually after that experience, I built a little goggle bag for races where I have clear, mirrored, different shades of mirrored, dark, and you want to survey what the, let's say, vision is like on the morning, because if it's overcast in the morning, it's quite dark. And so You also have to be aware of where the sun is coming up, and so you have to kind of do a cost-benefit analysis. So I think it's good to have 4 different types of goggles in your bag that you can choose race morning. Other than that, then you just come right back down where you started. You come around here, negotiate this corner, and you're out. The pavement definitely hurts the feet coming out of usually 58-degree water. I don't know if you can really desensitize yourself to that very much, but it sucks. Just be mentally prepared for it. Try not to run on any rocks or anything. And have a great transition. I've had some pretty bad transitions here. Last year I had a lifetime best swim and messed around with all my crap in transition and gave it all back, 1 minute back. So that's a complete waste of time. So work on your transitions as well. It's an important piece of the puzzle. So the bike is quite cold in the morning. Some years worse than others. When it's humid, kind of like now, I find it not to be too bad, but some years it's like on the drier side and it is very cold. And so if you're a person who is prone to shivering and getting a bit hypothermic, then I would definitely recommend at least having the option in transition to have something warm, something tight fitting, maybe a long sleeve of some sort. You know, an extra 30 seconds to a minute in transition to put on something warm and enjoy the bike and actually have some power and not be shivering to death is worth every second, and you'll end up riding a faster bike anyway. And if you start getting warm and you just have a long sleeve, you can always just roll up the sleeves if you start sweating later on in the day. So I think that's definitely something to be cognizant of. So Oceanside's a really cool bike course. It's on the military base, so we're just filming here because we're not allowed to go on there. No one's allowed to go on there if you're not in the military, so the only time we can go on there is literally during the race. So all of my knowledge is from the race, never from pre-riding the course. It's a great course. It's scenic, it's got a lot of hills. The pavement is, I don't know, like more of a chip seal in a lot of the places, and so if you're a good biker, you're going to be rewarded here. If you can push good power, you're going to be rewarded here. So in your preparations, if you were going to focus on one thing, you can definitely do a lot of damage on the bike in Oceanside. There's quite a few little corners to negotiate. I've known a couple guys to crash here, either coming in or going out. So definitely want to be getting out there, doing a bit of cornering. There's a few times where early on, you might not even have your shoes fully buckled in yet. Where there's some steep hills, so you want to be cognizant of that. There's also quite a few quick corners in the early part of the course. Last year I actually missed one of the corners and then had to do a U-turn and come back. So definitely keep your head up. You actually go behind at one point like a grocery store and stuff, and it's kind of weird. So you just got to keep your head up. Have a decent sense of what the course map looks like so that you kind of know what's coming. And then once you get out past that first part, it's a great course. There's a couple little out and backs, there's a few bumps. Definitely want to. One year I lost my nutrition on one of those bumps, so if you have like a frame bottle, highly recommend doing some Velcro on one side of the bottle and then the other side of the Velcro inside your holder of the bottle. Your front and back bottle, definitely recommend having like an elastic holding it on there, just because you very likely will lose them if you hit any of those bumps. There's a section of the course that's pretty narrow and it's like a bike path, so you know, being somewhat familiar with riding in time trial position and taking little subtle corners and stuff and not being afraid. You can definitely do all of these corners, these little corners in time trial position. So just being, you know, confident in yourself in that department. And then it's a cool course because just as it's starting to get hard and, you know, if you haven't been training your bike super well, all of a sudden you hit all the hills, all at about 50, 60 kilometers. And it's great if you're in good form, if you want to make a move, if you want to do some damage, that's where you want to do it. That's on the back. I think this course has like maybe 2,500 to 3,000 feet of climbing, and I think most of it comes inside of about 20 kilometers from about 50 to 70K. So that's good. They're pretty steep too, so you want to have decent choice of gearing. And then once you get past that, you have to come down those hills. Fortunately, if you're not a great bike handler like myself, there's a speed zone on the most technical corner on the course where you're not allowed to go. I believe it's 25 miles an hour. Don't quote me on that, but I believe it's 25 miles an hour down that section. And if you do, you're disqualified, and I've known people to be disqualified for it, so don't mess around with it. But once you get past that, then you're smooth sailing into town. And then the final little piece is you've got to negotiate. Literally, you start right up here, but you have to go all the way around the transition on your bike. And it's very like left and right, in and out. And so by this point, you've done all the damage you can on the bike. Don't do anything stupid. Don't crash 200 meters from the dismount of the bike. Take your time through that section and prepare yourself to have a great transition and an excellent run. All right, so this course is interesting in that the finish line is quite a ways away, probably a mile to a mile and a half away from where you transition. And so just be mentally prepared for that you're not coming back here for the finish. I mean, as you can see, it's probably one of the most beautiful run courses on the circuit. This is the Strand right here. There will not be 1,000 cars on race day. They definitely shut it to traffic. There will be a lot of runners though. I mean, it's a fantastic run course. It's a pretty straightforward run course. Literally, it's a straightforward run course. You run like 5K this way, turn around, come back, do it twice. That's the course. You do, one thing definitely to think about, especially if you come from a fairly flat place, is there are quite a few very steep, quick, approximately 40, 50 meter long hills, but they're quite steep and they're sharp. So definitely I would want to be doing some hills in my preparation. If you can find something on the steep side, that would definitely be good. I think the big thing is the ups and the downs. You're finding rhythm again, finding rhythm on such a steep uphill right after you get to the top, and then also on the down, it can be quite, in fact, I've almost had my quads cramp coming down these before, especially on the back half of the race. So just being somewhat cognizant of that and practicing a little bit, just because you don't want anything new on race day. You want to have sort of mentally experienced everything there is to experience. Definitely running, if you can find something that's just straight running, it does over time start to, because there's so little variation, left to right variation, it does do a different stress on the legs. Definitely good for rhythm when you're on the straight sections, but can be its own type of fatigue if you're not used to running literally just straight for like 3 straight kilometers. So something to, if you're really concerned, build into your preparations. From my experience on this course, I mean, still to this day, 2015 is the only time I ever got to go shoulder to shoulder with Jan Frodeno. I think it's still a bit cruel that it happened literally in like one of my first pro races, and then I never got to experience it again. But it still is a wonderful moment etched into my brain that I will never get to experience again unless Jan comes out of retirement. So that was a wonderful experience here. And well, I've won the race a couple times, so all of those were fantastic experiences. But probably my second most memorable experience was 2022. Had a relatively poor bike, came off the bike, I don't know, 7th or something. Figured I would never make it anywhere further than 7th because there was a lot of good guys in front of me. Fortunately, a lot of guys overbiked, and I ran, well, actually, it's a lifetime best run, 1:08:30. And right around here, actually, I came up the hill just over here, caught Ben Canute, and then I was like, oh, damn, we're in this thing still. And right here, caught Brownlee, and then another, I don't know, 200 meters, I was like, oh, I'm gonna dust this guy. And I caught Rudy Von Berg, and he turned out he had a lot more gears. And we sprinted into the finish for second. Who cares who got second? But we still don't really know who got second, actually, because there wasn't the official Olympic, finisher picture. So I feel I got second, though, and Ironman sided with me. It's a great finish, though. It's probably one of the most iconic finishes in triathlon. And so soak it in and enjoy the moment. All right, so that's our first race course video, tips, tricks, experiences video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, let us know in the comments, like the video, and we'll keep making them. Next up will be Ironman Texas. That's one that Ironman Texas itself I've only done once, but I have done Galveston, which is a similar type, very similar place and similar type course. And so I'll give you my experiences and what I'm thinking about in my preparations for that race. And then it is the last year for St. George, but that would be the next race that I would potentially do. Maybe more a homage to St. George, just because that also was an extremely formative and one of my favorite races I've ever done, favorite places to visit in the world. And so maybe we could do one on that too if you guys enjoy the video series.